I'm Karin, and welcome to my world. This is the time of the coronavirus. Everyone knows that by now, I'm sure, and this is recorded in, gotta be the 18th of March, 2020 or 2020. This is probably going to sound really weird to some people, but when I saw the virus appear and I began to understand what the implications were, the nature of the virus made me so relieved. I just could not thank the gods above enough for it being the kind of virus it was. And so, how is that? Well, scroll back to around 2008, 2009. That's when I went from being a nice, presentable computer worker to something rather more unusual. One of the things that happened during that time was I opened up to my psychic abilities, which is really just the ability to extend beyond your brains and pick up information from the field around you. Um, there's I love Cryon as a source. It's a long explanation to explain what Cryon is, but for those who don't know and interested, I'm going to refer to that source of material often. The website is kayon.com. And no, I don't get paid, and everything on the website is free. Anyway, there's a field of possibilities. We live kind of in the soup of this field of possibilities. Every potential, everything that could happen or might happen is in this field. So what happened when I started being able to read the field, what some people call psychic, was I was flooded with doom and disaster visions. I saw so many things because we were before 2012. It was before we really passed the marker. I'll talk about that some other day. But we were programmed. We were supposed to self-destruct this time, and we didn't. We're not going to now because we're past that point. So even when you get scared, when you get nervous, we're going to be okay. We're not going to self-destruct. It's going to be a lot of changes still. It's good, but we don't have to tear down the old anymore to get the new. So that's the good news. But one of the many disaster scenarios I predicted was a pandemic. I could literally see how bad it would get. I'm not going to go into details because it was not very pleasant, and it freaked me out quite a bit. I had lots of dystopia visions and society breaking down. I saw so many things, and it was super scary, all of it. But one of them was the pandemic. And here we were, and there was a pandemic on the rise. But obviously, it's not harmless, but it could have been Ebola with the same contagion rate. It could have been so much worse. So I was utterly relieved when I saw what it was. What I learned when I started reading the field was that being psychic, first of all, is not all it's cracked up to be. It sounds super cool. I really wanted to be psychic. I thought that would be so neat. Such a wonderful thing to be able to do. But the thing is, it's completely confusing. It's just, you put your head in the soup and you get anything. And I learned after several proclamations of this is going to happen, and now this is going to happen, and now that is going to happen, and it never did. And I didn't understand it because I felt absolutely sure I'd seen it. I knew it was there. I absolutely seen it. it took me quite a while to figure out that what I got when I stuck my head in the soup was pretty much anything. I got potentials. Potentials, that's something that could happen, but it might not. There's a percentage potential for any event to happen. Sometimes the percentage is 98 and it's as good as certain, but we're here with free choice and someone might suddenly change their mind or do something different. That means that even the 95% certainty becomes 5% nope, it's not going to happen. So you get all the potentials. So one, you don't know if it's actually going to happen. It's just a possibility. Two, time messes it up completely. I'll talk about time another day. Time is a nuisance. Time is only linear here in 3D. It's not in multiple dimensions. So what you get in the field, even if you might be right, like I ended up being with the pandemic, you don't know when it's going to happen because it doesn't come with a date on it usually. At least it doesn't for me. Might do for some people, but it didn't for me. Like with the pandemic, I was, let's say, about 10 years late. And thankfully, I was wrong about the nature of the pandemic because this one's not designed to wipe us out. This is just designed to do some other things and help us on instead of destroy ourselves. So that's a good thing. So you got the potentials, you don't have the timeline. And for me, I realized along this path that there are multiple realities. At least that's how I see it. We can live any number of lives that overlap and are at the same time. And for me, multiple realities are real. So what I would see from the field, from the soup, might not be the reality I was living in. So one big mess, which left me being psychic. Yes, that's cool. But I couldn't use my predictions for anything because I can't trust them. What I can do and what I do today is I try to look just a few steps ahead. I use my gut feeling, what is coming, to be just a little bit ahead. Which means that I had my extra bags of pasta and whatever else I needed in my cupboard to feel safe in case I did have to stay in for 2 weeks. I had all that squared out about 2 weeks before everyone else in where I am figured it out. So I didn't have to stand in line, I didn't have to be nervous, and I had enough toilet paper. I had a whole new pack, so I'm all set. So I used my feeling that, okay, I think this is what's happening now, to stock up, thinking, well, if I'm wrong, it doesn't hurt. If I'm right, it's a great thing. Saves a lot of trouble. So that's basically what I do. If my gut feeling tells me something, if my psychic impressions tells me something, I stopped telling people about it a long time ago because I made so many mistakes. I didn't tell anyone this time that, oh my goodness, I think this is the one. I think this is the one that's going to storm across the globe and make a ton of changes. I had the feeling, but I couldn't be sure. So I didn't really talk to anyone about it until I started seeing proof that I was probably right. All I did was stock up the pantry, which was very useful for me. So for me, it's more about keeping a few steps ahead of the tide. That's what I use it for. None of us can see very far ahead on the map, but if I can see 1 meter further than the next person, well, that's a good thing. If I feel like I shouldn't pack these papers in my suitcase, but in my carry-on, I put them in my carry-on. And then if the suitcase gets lost, I know why. But this whole thing about living with intuition, which some people call psychic, I'll talk more about some other day. But anyway, I am relieved that what we have as the flu. I know all the bad things there are to say about it, but it could have been so much worse. And I feel so blessed that having good health, I don't have to worry about getting sick, even if I got sick. If my instructing my body to make antibodies didn't work out, I would be okay. I would have a nasty flu, but I would be okay. I don't have to worry about my children getting sick. I know there are people out there who do have to worry about their health, but they would have a lot more to worry about if this had been higher mortality rate than what we do have. So I'm relieved these days. We didn't get the terrible pandemic that would wipe out half of the population of the earth, and thank goodness for that. Thank you for now.